What up? What up? How's everybody doing? Please give me a thumbs up or something, just letting me know that we are live and everybody's listening to me. Just wanted to make sure that everybody is synced up. Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for joining. I'm Roman Jacos. I am a Flutter GDE, lead organizer at GDG Lawrence, GDG Northeast mentor. Really happy to be here for live coding after hours, Flutter edition. Thank you, Dyer. And hey, by the way, bro, thank you for the tip. I actually implemented it already, so thank you so much. That was awesome. So I just wanted to say, everybody joining, and again for the recording, thank you. I'm coming live to you, giving you exclusive access to my new studio. I mean, you could just look. Things are looking much better, but we're going to continue improving just to give you the best quality as far as like streaming and videos and content that I'm going to be providing. So I just wanted to give everybody a shout out in the chat. Please leave your comments in there. Thank you so much, Christian, Sirhan. I see you again. Thank you so much. I love all the the regulars coming over. So thank you guys. I truly appreciate this. Again, I'm giving you, like I said, exclusive access to my development process. So this is me just coding for fun. I'm just opening up the camera and the mic just so that you guys can see me code. But it's not like this is a special case. No, I'm just opening it up for everybody to just see me code. And I want to share this with the whole world. And that's the reason why I'm doing it via Twitter, via YouTube, via Twitch, so that you guys can see my development process. And in this particular case, I am building an application from scratch. Please make sure to check out the previous video from last week. Definitely, yes. That was the category that I picked. So yeah, thank you, Dyer. Thank you for the tip. That was great. So yes, so I'm gonna be showing you now the application that I've been building ever since last week. I started it from scratch. So make sure to check the video from last week. That way you can kind of catch up and all of that. So I'm gonna be sharing, and I hope I do have now access to the mic while I'm showing this application. So this is the application that I've been building, that I started it. I built this application a couple of years ago in Objective-C. Then it was like a nightmare for me to migrate it to like Android. And then I'm like, okay, so what if, and then I did it for Windows Phone. Then I did it for BlackBerry, I think it was. Like I did it like for a bunch of platforms. I had a bunch of code bases. Now I'm revamping this application back to life. I'm bringing it back to life using Flutter. For those of you who just stumble upon this live cast, you don't know what Flutter is? Well, Flutter is an open source UI toolkit supported by Google that allows you to develop beautiful, amazing, natively compiled applications, multi-platform applications for 6 distinct platforms with one single code base and open source and using an open source programming language like Dart, also created by Google. So please stick around, stay tuned. We're going to have a lot of fun. I'm going to pick up exactly where I left off last time. I'm going to show you where we left it off at this particular time. So I'm going to switch back to my screen, and then I'm going to show you the design that we've been working on. Again, like I said, this is just me. This is me just developing applications in my regular like cadence. It's just that I'm giving you private access, exclusive access to my development process. So this is one application that I decided that I wanted to do. I'm just opening up my camera for people to see me develop it. But other than that, again, I hope you guys enjoy it and learn a thing or two. And please drop in the comments if you see me, please keep me honest. Anything that you see me do wrong, please, I'll be able to fix it. So this is an application. It's a very simple Flutter casual game application that I'm gonna revamp in Flutter. I'm gonna add Firebase authentication, Firebase Cloud Firestore. I'm gonna implement a leaderboards on it. So it's supposed to be like a character. It's like a frog that then is supposed to be like jump across the pond. And then if you see here, like the game page right there, you see that we're gonna have to create like character and how like the character like jumps from row to row. So we're gonna be creating this like scrolling capabilities. We're gonna be adding gestures and all of that. I am going to add like a help page, so kind of like explain, even though it's pretty self-explanatory, but I'm gonna have like a help page for people to understand what the game is all about, right? Also, I think we left off last week doing like the options page where people pick whether they want to do like easy or hard and all of that. Today I'm gonna I'm going to open up the floodgates on the coding. We're going to do some state management tonight. So yeah, I know that some of you are really fans of like GetX or, Riverpod, Provider. I'm going to be using Provider. It's a simple state management solution supported by Google. And then I'm going to use it in this particular case to store like the option that the user selected, whether easy or hard. Also, we did like we didn't do like the playability yet because we're not there yet. And of course, we need to show like a page for the leaderboard. So let me move this out of the way. And then now I'm going to show you a little bit of the code. And of course, remember, you please, the things that I've been implemented in here are the things that have worked for me. But you go do you. Try not to follow hype. Try not to follow, just because somebody tells you that's how they did it and then it worked. It may not work for you. So just try to pick, whatever works best for your project, whatever works best for your team. And this is exactly the same thing that I'm showing here on the screen. I hope folks are seeing my screen in there. So here's the code. This is the structure that I picked. I'm using like a simple folder structure. So I'm using I have a folder for my assets where I'm going to be saving the audio. I'm going to be storing fonts. And this is where I'm storing all the images that this application is comprised of. So you see, if you check out last week's video, these are all the images and I'm creating kind of like sprites out of it, but using core components in Flutter. So I've already exported all the images. I've already imported the images into the project. They're there in my images folder. I started already creating a little bit of the structure, right? So I created like a helpers folder. I created a models folder. I haven't created anything there. I have a pages folder. Remember, where I consider the pages like those page level full screen type of widgets. Everything in Flutter is a widget. So I'm using like a full page widget. I call it a page. And then I say widgets, for example, the things that are more reusable, that are smaller, that page level widgets encapsulate within them. And then I can just drop them anywhere. But the pages also get involved in navigation and all of that. So I'm using routing for navigation. I'm using Navigator 1.0 as opposed to Navigator 2.0. But you'll see this coming together. So let me demo the application one more time. I'm going to hit Shift R for a hot restart, and then you will see it load up. So you see the splash screen, and then you see like the skipping frog, which is like the landing page. Remember last week we implemented like these press buttons, like the two states of the buttons. I created something called the skipping frog button. That was pretty cool. So please check out the video from last week. It was really fun. I created like that custom button that allows me to do this type of state. Like when I hold it down, you see like the other image. If you click on options, this is where we left off last time, where we're now giving a shape on how to reuse those skipping frog buttons, which consist of just two images, and then we just toggle the images on and off, depending on when you're holding down your button on top of that image, and then I just display the other one right under it. So now we're going to implement this as a toggle. And for this, I need to persist the state of each one of the buttons depending on which one is selected. So I'm going to try to do that with state. So remember, state management in Flutter is nothing more than lifting your data, lifting the state above to a level that when your widget is rebuilding, it gets persisted, because that is the great thing about Flutter, like the capabilities of it being able to rebuild many times, many frames per second, pretty much. And when you extract the state out of the widget, then your widget is able to rebuild as many times as it needs, but then it taps into the state to pull data so that in the next frame cycle, then it reflects what the data is all about. And then that way you can implement like state management in a very simple way. You can do like we did, you can do set state, you can use like a state for widgets, you can do like value notifiers, you can do change notifiers, you can do all of those type of ways that you can observe on a value and respond to that by rebuilding your widget. You can do all of that. I'm going to be using consumer in this particular case so that you can see how that works, and I'm going to use, of course, the change notifier so that you can see that. I'm going to implement it in a very simple way. We can refactor later, but at least I'm going to be using like some of those aspects of that. I see other people joining. Camilo, brother, how you doing, brother? Thank you so much for joining. Please stay tuned, and then I'm going to continue with all of these. So now let's, what we're going to implement, again, like I mentioned, was like the options. So when I go to the options, you have these two buttons, the easy and the hard. I'm going to be creating a couple of models and some helpers to allow me to kind of capture the state of this application. So in this particular case, I'm going to go to the helpers, because remember, you see that we have like a difficulty, an easy or hard. What I want to do is I want to set up like an enumeration that determines like what the level of the difficulty is in the game. So check this out. I'm going to be creating a new file, and I'm just going to call it difficulty, just like this. Look, difficulty dart. And I'm going to be creating as an enum. So I'm going to be creating an enum. I'll call it difficulty. And then, of course, I'm going to need two values for my enum, like for easy and hard, for example, right? So then if I say, or I can just say, for example, 3 states, like none, meaning there's nothing set. Then there's easy if you set easy, and then hard if you hard, like if it's hard. We can make it initially easy. We can just keep it truly easy. I can just say easy and hard. So I'm going to have like an enumeration that is going to represent the state of the difficulty of the game, whether it's easy or hard. Let's say that we want to have easy as the default value. Now, how am I going to capture this value so that I can reflect that now in my options page, and only this little widget is going to know about whether I'm in the easy or hard level? Later on, I'm going to set up like more constructs like for this. But for example, in the beginning, I'm going to try something easy. I'm going to start creating like some services that I'm going to then lift their state and then use them as kind of like to persist the state of the application so that I can rebuild my widget as many times. Then the widgets pull values from these services, these constructs that hold the state of the application. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to create a service, and I'm going to call it game service. So now you're kind of getting the hang of this. So I'm going to be creating a service or some sort of, you could call it like a view model if you want to call it like that, but it's going to hold like business logic pertaining to the game itself. And of course, I'm just going to create it as a regular class. A lot of people create it like, you can create it as you can call it view model, you can call it anything. I make it super simple. You will see. I'm just going to create a simple class. I'm going to call it game service. Simple as that. If I want, for example, like this particular service to, let's say, notify anybody who's listening, like anybody that's listening to this particular service, then I want to implement something called like a change notifier. I'm going to get to that in a minute, but I'm going to show you, for example, this is how I start creating and I lift the state of the application. So I create just a regular class. I call it game service, and then in the game service is the service then that gives me like all the kind of like all the constructs. I'm gonna keep like a centralized location for all my business logic. So I start doing something like that. Let's say I'm going to add, for example, here in the options. Remember, the options is the one that's gonna hold whether the difficulty. I can call it like a difficulty service if I want to store that, but the game service is where I want to do that. So check this out. So I'm gonna create one property which I'm gonna call. For example, I'm going to create a final difficulty, and then I'm going to call it difficulty. Just something really simple. And by default, I'm going to say difficulty dot easy, for example. Let's say that's the default. The default difficulty for my game will be easy. When I come in, everybody's like in the easy level, for example, right? Now, let's say if you want to now read the value of this state, because remember, this is a state. I'm lifting it up. The state or like this business logic should not be inside of your widgets. So in my particular page where I have the options page, right? And I have the two buttons that represent the easy and the hard, which are right here. I want to be able to read whether the state of the game, the difficulty of the game is either easy or hard. How do I do that? How do I read the service? The first thing is that you need to either inject the service, whether you use like a dependency injection. In this particular case, I'm going to be using just a regular provider. So provider is that package supported by Google, of course, supported by the Flutter team, that allows you to separate, to create like a very clean separation of your concerns. You have your business logic and you have your widget rendering logic, so you separate it. How do you trickle it down from the top? This is how I do it. So I come back over here. One of the things that I import, of course, is I import the provider package, which I haven't done so. You can either, import it by just going to pubspec.yaml, and you can add it right there. But of course, if you're hardcore like me, you can just come over here in the command line and you say flutter pub add provider. Just by doing this, flutter pub add provider, you're already downloading the package. You download that package from Flutter, and it already updates your pubspec.yaml automatically, adding the provider package, the latest version, and then you should be able to use it. So if I now take a look at my pubspec.yaml, if I go back over here, you will see provider right there. So the provider now has been added. So this package is the one that provides, provider is kind of like a wrapper around inherited widgets. And then when you place a service or this type of construct at the root of your widget tree, it trickles it down, and it trickles it down to the other widgets, and then you use the context, the build context, to actually retrieve it. Let me show you how to do that. So the first thing that I'm going to do is just inject it at the root. So I'm just going to wrap my whole application. You could do it at this level. You could do it at the material level. You could do it anywhere. I want to do it like all the way here at the top. So I'm going to do this. So I create something called multi-provider. And then in the multi-provider, of course, I need to import it, of course. So I say import the provider package. And then in a multi-provider has something called collection called providers. So if you, for example, here you have the providers. Sorry about that. And then here in the providers, then this is where you inject every provider or every service that will be injected into your application or trickle down from the top. So in my particular case, let's just keep it simple. I'm going to add it as a provider. So I'm going to work up to that. So let's add a provider. And then when you do provider, you do this. You say create. And then here, the create is kind of like a callback that you do to create. Sorry about that. That actually injects a provider build context for you, but the create is a callback that you associate with that provider to instantiate the service that you're going to inject, the service that contains that logic to be provided. In our particular case, it's going to be called game service. So if you see, I am actually instantiating a service. It's not a constant. I'm just going to keep it like this. So you see it's game service. So I am injecting already via the provider the game service. Very simple. And you see I'm already injecting it at the top. So I'm just going to go, and there it is. So just like this, is very simple. I can consume this service anywhere I want by just extracting it, pulling it via the provider, like from one of the children. So I'm going to go now to that page, to this particular page, the options page. Check this out. So now where can you access it? Remember, you should be able to access that service, that provided service, from anywhere below the widget tree. So I'm going to grab my 2 buttons. Actually, I can even grab this whole column because it contains the 2 buttons. So I'm going to wrap this into a widget. I'm going to wrap it into a builder. Why? Because I'm going to be using this. Consumer. This is one of the widgets that actually listens for like changes. But I'm going to show you how it works. So first, I kept it as a provider, and then the consumer is just kind of like listening to changes in the service. Some of you may have already spotted the thing that I'm missing, but please bear with me. I'm going to add as a consumer the service, the game service, for example. And I will import the consumer, and there it is. The consumer then takes other parameters. So not only takes the context, but it takes the service and an optional child, right? Because you get the context, you get the service injected, and then you get the child. But you see now, what I want to check, what I want to do here, you see that both of the checks both of the check boxes are checked. I want to check which one is the easy and which one is hard, and depending on which difficulty is actually set, I am going to then mark that button as checked. For example, here, check this out. I can just do right here, game service dot difficulty. If the difficulty is easy, if I say difficulty dot easy, then it's gonna be true, right? And then this one, I'm just going to say if difficulty is hard, and then that's it. So whichever is actually selected, then it's going to show me that toggle. Remember, take a look at the previous video so you can see how I created this this toggle button, which is pretty cool. So after this, so the skip and frog button is nothing more than just a widget that has 2 images, and then I just toggle it using an internal set state to just rebuild within that same button. And then whenever it's pressed, you see the other image, and when you release it, you see one image. Then I added this toggle functionality Toggle, all it does, the toggle, is just kind of like makes this button a toggle. When you tap once, it freezes the image. When you toggle it again, it like flips to the other image. So instead of just changing it as you press, it's gonna change it based on a flag that you send it, whether the toggle is true or false. That's it. So now let me go back to the difficulty, actually to the options page. I am going to save it and check this out. If I'm gonna have to, I believe I have to come over here and do a full reload. I added a new file, but let's take a look to see if this works. I should, but there you go. So you say, it says failed assertion, provider used outside of the multi-provider must specify a child. There you go. So because of this, when I come over, you see that I added it as a provider. So I added it as a provider. It says that is, you see that it says inherited provider game service used outside of the multi-provider. And then you must specify a child. You see what it is? Is because here I need to add, that's why I said, I hope you guys spotted it. You need to add a child, and the child should be the whole application. So that's what it is, you see? So that's why it needs to trickle down throughout the whole application, and then you provide your child would be like that. Like the whole child is the whole application. The multi-provider kind of like trickles it all the way from the top and then makes it available from the root all the way to all the widgets. So let's reload one more time. That's why I said, did you spot the issue that I'm missing to do? So there it is. Now it comes over. Now the landing page shows, and then now if I go to the options, you see now that easy is actually selected. Why is that? Because I maintain my state above this widget, and the default value is easy. All I did was just say, check if it's easy. If it's easy, then make the other one, the top one selected, and then the other one, or the other one selected. So the toggle mechanism. You can take a look at how I build it. I'm going to show it in just a minute. Now, how do I make it so that when I click, I flip from one to the other? Now this is the trick. Remember how you see how I created it here as I created it up here as a provider? Well, a provider you only read it once. It's kind of like a unilateral, a unidirectional data flow. So it only flows down one time and you just read it. If you really want to trigger changes and send changes up the chain, allow your widget to rebuild and then you read it again. So you have to create it as a change notifier provider. So I'm going to change this as a change notifier provider. Of course, it's failing because the game service, when you use a change notifier provider, the service that you're injecting in there has to implement change notifier. So that is the change that we need to do. So in this case, I'm going to call it extends change notifier, of course. And now the change that I'm going to do is this. Check this out. I'm going to create it really simple. You can create it using getters and setters. I'm going to create it just simple methods. So I'm going to have a method that is going to change the difficulty from easy or hard depending on which button you've selected, and that is what will notify whoever's listening, in this particular case the options, so that it changes from one state to the other. But you see, I go up the chain, I call the method, all the logic is in the game service, then I just allow my widget to rebuild, and that is what the consumer does. So the consumer, because it's listening to the changes in the game service, and then we notify listeners, it rebuilds only that piece of the UI as opposed to like the whole page. So check this out. I'm going to say set game difficulty. I'm going to call it like that, say change difficulty. And I'm going to pass, of course, the difficulty. And then here, all I'm going to say is set the difficulty. So I'm going to say difficulty is what? Whatever I'm passing. Something like that. And what is the trick here? The trick here is notify listeners. Notify listeners is that key, is that trigger that whenever I set the game difficulty, when I set it and then I notify the listeners, the widget is going to rebuild and it's going to read the new value that got passed via as the parameter to that method. So check this out. Now I'm going to go back to the options page. I'm going to now add that to my button. So in the on tap, what I'm going to do is, remember, I'm listening on the game service. And then here I'm going to say very simple, just game service dot set game difficulty. Which button is this? This is the easy. So I'm going to say difficulty.easy. That's all I'm going to do. So I'm just gonna grab this, paste it in there, and then I'm just gonna pass the difficulty there. Simple as that. I'm gonna copy, I'm gonna come back over to the hard, and I'm just gonna say the difficulty is hard. See, in the on tap, in the action of that button, I am actually triggering the change that will go up the change up to here. It won't rebuild the whole page. It will only rebuild that section when I trigger the notify listeners via that set game difficulty method. So I'm gonna save it, reload it. Now check this out. If I click on hard, oh, sorry, just because of that. So let's try it again. Let me reconnect. I'm gonna do Flutter run. So the runner, yeah, this kind of like blew up for me. Very good, awesome. Good thing that at least the emulator still remain well. So let's just make sure that when I reload it, now you will see it. But anyway, I just wanted to recap again on state management. You saw how easy I made it. I kept it really simple. I just created a class that extends change notifier. I just added a method that triggers that notification to whoever's listening to that same value that is really concerned about the value. It's just gonna rebuild. That's all it's gonna do. So I'm relaunching the application. You're gonna see how now when I call it up the chain, call the set game difficulty method, the options page is listening, or that particular section only, the one that contains the 2 buttons. When he reads it the next time, oh, it's not gonna be easy because I tapped on the hard. So now this guy is gonna toggle it and he's gonna show the off state, and then this one is gonna show because it's gonna be hard. So it's just reading the state. So remember, always lift the state up, allow your widgets to rebuild, keep all the business logic in separate classes or view models, whatever have you. In this particular case, I'm just calling a game service. I call it like services because I kind of like have that mentality of like, services being injected, right? Like something that you provide as a service, something that is provided. So let me save it all. I think it's still rebuilding. But you will see now that after I click, easy or hard, then you will see them change. And then we'll continue with all the other all the other functionality. We're gonna add other pages and whatnot. I want to see if we can finalize today's episode by building all the other pages and also even just framing and building the game page, just like at least the core of it, so that then in the next week, when we hit it again, we're ready to start banging on that page. But at least I wanted to leave it at a good state so that I can just, at least have like a good beginning. Yes, why final? So for example, if I keep it as final, it's because let's say if I don't want it to change. Now that I want it to change, I'm gonna have to change it. But final is usually when you, it's kind of like that's a very good point. So I keep it final as a kind of like as a, like as a habit. But now that I want to change it, I need to remove the final. That is correct. That is a very good point. Final is when you is when you just like the decorator that you add to your properties when you want them to stay kind of like like an initial value, and then you don't want the value to change, but it will be set initially, and then that value remains. Is that different from a constant? That a constant remains the same value across the application's lifetime, for example. But final is because you want to have, for example, you want to initialize it with one value during the lifetime. It could have no value initially, but then when you initialize it via the constructor or anything like that, then you set the value and then it can change. So check this out. So if I go to options and then if I try to click it, you see it doesn't do it. It's because of that. So now I'm gonna go, and for example, in this case, I don't need it to be final because I want it to change. So now, for example, see I click easy, hard, you see it doesn't do it. But that is a very good point. So now in this particular case, we don't need it to be final because, I wanted to, it already has an initial value, but that's kind of like a force of habit. Like usually when you create like immutable widgets and widgets that when they rebuild, their values don't change, is always a good practice to keep it final. So in this particular case, let's not do it final because at least it already has a value initially. So let me reload. Now when I click, I should be able to trigger that change, and then now the difficulty, you will see it change. So when I click here, and then you click on hard, okay, I need to debug now the tapping in here. So let's take a look at that. For those of you who know, how to use the Flutter developer tools. So the Flutter developer tools, you can even tap it. It's a web-based type of user interface that just pops up on the side, and then you can debug your applications. What I like about the developer tools in Flutter, now in Flutter 3, is that it has this one right here. Talk about now the provider being supported by Google themselves, that they added a dedicated tab in the Flutter developer tools, right? And you see how the difficulty now is there, right? Now we should be able to see how it taps into the how I set the difficulty, and then it just changes the value. So for example, here I can just call it like difficulty, just so that you see that it's not the same value. So just make sure that you see it, and then I can debug it, right? So when we say set game difficulty, we set the difficulty, we triggered notify listeners, the options page is gonna reload, and then it's gonna say, okay, only when this is easy is gonna say true, and then when this is hard is gonna be true, and then each one of these just triggers the on tap. Let me make sure that the on tap is actually wired in here. So if I go to the on tap, see, on tap is triggering the on tap. So let's make sure that we're actually loading it correctly, because that should be just triggering that. But yeah, very good point. So let me hit options, and then if I click hard, you see there it is. So now when I do that, you see easy, and then it's easy, and then hard is hard. And then if you look at the provider, you see how now when I go to easy is 0, and when it's hard is 0. So it's pretty cool. I love the developer tools, because the developer tools allow you to debug it in real time. You don't instead of you like placing breakpoints, you could do some debugging at this level. Of course, you can place your breakpoints, but you see how the provider tab is here. That is the reason why I'm using provider, because I mean, like, hey, there's a dedicated provider tab, and I don't have to do anything. It's part of the Flutter 3. So there it is. You see, very easy. I just implemented like a toggle mechanism, and I'm also persisting those values up in the chain, up in a separate service to do that. Of course, if you really and then as a recap for Sirhan's comment. Of course, if you want your values to change, of course, don't do them final. Final is when you initialize them once, and then it doesn't change throughout the lifetime. But it allows you to do like some performance optimizations when you're rebuilding your widget. So you can do them as final, like your parameters that don't change. You will see me doing a lot of finals later on. That was just like, again, a force of habit. But okay, so we got the game service. This service is gonna be holding like other values in here. So we can park this for a minute while we create like all the other pages. Perfect. So I'm gonna close all of these. So I'm gonna start creating. Let's see what other pages we need. So if I go back, we have the start, the game page, the help. We're gonna do the help. The options, we already did the options page. We need the leaderboard. So when I click on leaderboards, I want to be able to tap into load the leaderboards page, right? And then, see, this is already persistent the state, which is okay. That's perfect. So now I'm going to hit a view leaderboard. So I'm going to create another page for that. Got it. So I'm going to just go here to pages, create new file, and then say, I can just call it lb.dart, but it's too short. Let's call it leaderboards.dart. And of course, I use my snippets. The leaderboards, yes, I'm assuming it's going to be stateful. From now, I'm going to create it like that, because I'm pretty sure that I'm going to need like some rebuilding in here. Or not. Or maybe I can just, for example, like the leaderboard aspect, I can create it as a separate widget. I can create it as a separate widget and then encapsulate all that functionality. Just use this page as like the shell, the outer container. So let's like the outer wrapper. So I can do that. Oh, see, I killed the application. So let's try it again. I'm gonna load my Visual Studio. It usually, I don't know how many times like it bombs on you guys as well. So for me, it just like blew up. So for you, just make sure that you always, make sure that you always, have it at hand. You load it right away and all of that. There we go. So I'm gonna have to hook it up again, of course, and make sure that to reload it. But let me go back again to this leaderboards page. I want to rename it. You can keep like a good naming convention. Right now, I'm not keeping a like very serious naming convention, but I can definitely do that. You see, like I'm calling everything page at the end, like as a suffix. So let's be honest. Let's right click, and I'm gonna call it leaderboards page. and that's how I want to call it. So you want to keep a consistent naming convention for your files, for your organization, for your sake. Your future self will thank you. Let's just leave it at that. So let's go to the leaderboards page again, and I'm gonna keep it as I'm gonna make it as a stateless widget. You never go wrong when you create it as a stateless, and then you can convert it as a stateful. So you can start with a stateless widget. So that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna keep all of this like that. Let's try it again. Stateless. Okay, so it's, the snippets are still not loading. They take a little bit to like kick in. I can create it as a regular class, and I'm gonna say leaderboards, leaderboards page, and then extends stateless widget. Simple as that. You see, I was able to code it right away. Now, of course, I hope this kicks in as well, the importing. But while that comes up, I'm gonna say override. Okay, I believe it's coming up, and then you can say widget build. Build context, right? This is what a regular stateless widget contains. So let's see. Okay, there it is. It's loading up. So I'm have my material. Perfect. There it is. So I import the material, and I have my stateless widget. So this stateless widget, and you see, you always get this barking. I'm gonna say add key to constructors, and you see it creates it as a const. That's pretty good. And the build method, of course, I'm gonna start returning like the structure in there. So let's go. Which page has like a good? Okay, so I can grab like the minimum that I need on my page is that yellow background that I'm gonna need. So I'm gonna copy like the scaffold, the safe area, and probably the column. Yeah, I probably need that. So I'm just gonna return that out of this one. I'm gonna say return. See, I'm gonna need a column with some children. Low. Eventually, like I'm probably if I look at the design of the leaderboards in here, my leaderboard would probably be a toggle, like easy and hard, and then it would be exactly the same thing, either easy or hard. I can toggle that. I can show like a scrollable components. I'm gonna show the background, the title that says leaderboards, and the button that says back in the bottom. That's it. Simple as that. So I'm gonna keep this on the side, and let's build this little thing. So by right away I can say that it's a column, so that's why I kept it as a column. I need my safe area, I need my stack, I need my scaffold, and then there you go. The stack, I need to close the stack. So here it is. But in this particular case, just because the stack is because I'm gonna stack things up on top of each other, and then the background will be all the way at the bottom. So now when I do this, and then of course I need to connect it. Of course, Flutter run, just Flutter run, because we already have the simulator connected. So we're going to, when I click on view leaderboards, we're gonna navigate to that. While this is building, let me add those constructs. So of course we're gonna need a route for that. And in the leaderboards page, we're gonna follow exactly the same thing that we did in the previous ones, where we created like a static way to refer to the route as opposed to hard coding it. Yeah, thank you guys for that suggestion. I think it was you, Serhan, who suggested that. I do that as well, but I was just like cutting corners. I love the fact that you guys are keeping me honest, so that's exactly what I needed. So thank you. So I'm just gonna call it leaderboard. Simple as that. And then I'm going to the main.dart, and I'm going to import that as a new route. By the way, I want to extract this Skipping Frog app thing. I kind of like want to extract it as a separate page, as a separate widget, but that's fine. So I'm gonna say leaderboards page.route. Hello, should auto import it. It's taking a little bit for me. There you go, leaderboards page.route, and then I'm gonna do the same thing, context and const leaderboards page. I wonder why it didn't. I thought I saw the auto import, but that's fine. So that's what I'm doing. I'm already adding the leaderboards page as a new route, so I can navigate to it. And there it is. I'm importing it, so I'm all good. Now, wherever I go now, and then I go, for example, to that particular page, to the options page. This is still building, as you can see. So I want to navigate to this page from the options page. So remember, we're keeping like a flat structure, not like nested navigation or anything like that. So we're keeping it simple. And then in that view leaderboards button, which is down here, there it is. All I'm gonna say is navigator it's not that many pages that we have, so you can keep it simple. You can keep the navigator dot off context, and then you say push. What is it? What do we want to do? I want to push a named one so that if I hit back, I can get back to this one. We can also go back to the, well, for now, let's keep it simple. I'm just going to say push named leaderboards page. I hope it does the auto import. There it is. There, and then I say dot route. So let's try to test that. Of course, no need to wait until it builds initially. But at least we have that hooked up. So when I click on my view leaderboards button, I should be able to navigate to that particular page. You see, I'm building the pages little by little. I have all my pages. After I build all my pages, then we're gonna hammer this application with all the logic that it needs, you know, to make it pop. Then after we build like all of these things, this when we're gonna proceed to the Firebase and all of that, you know, connected to the leaderboard and all of that. Okay, perfect. So let's try now doing this. Hope you guys are still looking at it. I'm gonna rebuild. There you go. This is just loading up, and then here we go. Okay, so it should load. Let's take a look. Yeah, usually again at the beginning it takes a little bit. Here we go. See, it's loading. Then if I go to the options, and then I can, this is still working. Remember, this is keeping the state. And if I click on view leaderboards, no, it's still not doing it. Let's take a look again. Let's reload. Did I save everything? Let's take a look. This is the right button. The push named leaderboards route. I need to make sure that I named it correctly. So let me see. Leaderboard, or did I call it leaderboards? I think that's what it was. Leaderboard and leaderboard page route. Yeah, that's the same one. Got it. So let's try again. Options, view leaderboard, and there it is. Okay, perfect. Now let's take a look at why the background and all of that is not loading. So we have the stack, we have the scaffold, we have the image, we have the column. Okay, it's because of that. So if I do, for example, let me hide this guy so I can show you. And then if I reload it, there it is. You see, it's because when you add this, and then you save, and then you reload, there's nothing in there to kind of occupy the space. So that's why it's doing that. I mean, the position that fails kind of needs like something to kind of force it to fill the page. So I'm going to add now the things that we need in this particular case. So the first thing that we're gonna add at the top is like the title. I think I have the title that says leaderboards, this guy right here. So I think I have it as an image. So I'm gonna go here. I think I called it that. Yeah, that's what I called it. So I think I called it LB title or something like that. Hell, leaderboards title. Leaderboards title should be that guy. There you go. Leaderboards title. So that's what we need. And remember how I did it. Depending on, and because I kept it the safe area like that is because I don't want it to, like some of the operating system components to block it. So let's do image.assets, image.asset, and then I do assets, images, and then I call it leaderboard. What did I call it again? Leaderboards title. So leaderboards title.png. Again, like you said, like sometimes I do, like I either add one particular dimension if I want that particular dimension the same across devices, or just do padding or anything like that to just make sure that is sized appropriately. I can do, for example, I can try starting with like with 180 with 180 and height of like 100, you know, something like that. Let's try something like this, just so that at least we can see it. And then now you'll see that the column, it says, okay, did I call it right? No, leaderboards, sorry about that. Here we go, leaderboards title, there it is. And then now we should be able to see it. You see leaderboards, and then it shows there. The column I wanted to kind of, thank you, sir. Yeah, I'm always like, I name my own things, and then I don't, you know, honor it. So that's my problem. But thank you, buddy, for keeping me honest. So let me do this trick here that I always do. I say cross-axis alignment dot stretch. What this does is like makes the column stretch so that all the other widgets kind of follow suit. And then that's how you see how when you stretch the column, all the widgets can line themselves accordingly there, but the knowing that the column has actually taken most of the space. This is then when I now do, like, I either I probably change like some a little bit on the spacing in here, just forcing like the width on this column on the image itself. You see, for example, like in this particular case, the leaderboards is actually the image is stretching with the column. And then regardless of what you do here, it's kind of doing that, like, oh, I'm doing my own thing. You see what it's doing? So even though I provided like the width and provided the height, like it's not honoring it. It's pretty much almost like the same as if I don't have it. If I go back again to the options and then I go back to the leaderboards, you see what it does. So that's why some of you also, we tried that experiment last time, and this is one way that you can mitigate it. For example, you can do this. You have your image, but then, for example, you truly want to keep that and want to keep it responsive. So this is what you do. You wrap your image inside a padding widget. And then to the padding widget is where you only add padding. And then this is what actually dictates the width of the image, as opposed to being like a hard-coded value. In this particular case, I'm only using like this, let's say this application only, we're going to do it for iOS and Android. And then if you see, depending on the size of the widget, the size of the screen, you can kind of like size your widget accordingly. And your widget will resize according based on the width of your target device pretty much. So you can keep increasing this, or you can just say padding only left and right, for example. You can do how can I get started with Flutter as a beginner? Mohammed, you say, how can you start as a Flutter as a beginner? You can check out, like, again, a lot of the flutter.dev. When you go to flutter.dev, you have a lot of great resources in there. I suggest using, again, not to self-promote here, but some of the tutorials that I've created in Roman Just Code, some of the workshops, I start like all the way from the beginning. You might want to take a look at some of those. You get like really cool workshops. But a suggestion to you, if you want to start learning Flutter, focus on building UI layouts. Don't focus on like isolates or even state management at the beginning. Try to get more familiar with how the widgets work, how the life cycle of the widgets, building UI layouts. That is what gives you the confidence to understand how Flutter works, how widgets rebuild and all of that, the three widget trees in Flutter. Then you can work your way up from there. So I dropped that link in there so that you can take a look at some of the workshops that I have for like beginners and also advanced. So take a look at some of those, and that would be like a great point to start. And of course, flutter.dev, never leave it. Always, you can do flutter.dev. Keep it in your, keep it as your, in your favorites as a bookmark, because the Flutter documentation is really amazing. It's really good. You can go to the documentations right here, and you see how you can even take a look at the documentation. How do you start developing, introduction to widgets and all of that. So that is a great place where you can start. Flutter.dev, you can start from there. Thank you very much for your comment. Let's continue so that I can just finish this piece. So see, I'm gonna try to say like 40 pixels on the left, 40 pixels on the right, and then I'm kind of forcing the image from the sides by forcing it using padding. So if I reload that, you see now how the leaderboards, without me giving it some constraints or like a specific dimensions, you see how the leaderboard is showing. So I kind of like that. I can add like maybe something at the top. So you see, instead of me saying width and height, you don't need that in certain situations unless it's truly required for you. So in this particular case, the leaderboard title will behave responsively on Android and iOS. I'm gonna actually even force my screen to be like portrait. This game is not to be played in landscape, but if I want to do that, I can do that. Then in that particular case, I can capture the orientation. There's another widget for that. I can capture the orientation. Then I can fix the widget, that image widget to a specific dimension so that it doesn't stretch too much. So that's something that you can do. Thank you, Mohammed, for your comment. So now let's continue on. For example, what other pages we need to do? So we have the options, we have the help. Let's try to do the help, and let's in this particular case, the help might need that treatment that I told you about. So I'm gonna copy this. let's do the help page. And actually, I'm just gonna do, I only need the contents of the leaderboard. So let me just grab the scaffold only of the leaderboard. I'm gonna go to the help page because the help page is pretty much bare right now. So I'm just gonna add the scaffold. Let's reload. Perfect. I'm gonna reload one more time, and then you will see the help page was like really bare. We're gonna do the same thing with the game page. So if I go to help, you see now it says leaderboards. Okay, I need to add then the help title in there. See, I was able to reuse again a lot of the constructs for that, so that's saved me a lot of a lot of typing. Help.title, that's what I need here. So I'm gonna say help underscore title, save, reload. You will see that it says help, but it's humongous, right? You see, that is the thing. So in now that if you really want to constrain the like this particular image, then you can use something like a sized box. A sized box that it is better to use, is better than using a container, because sized box has a constant constructor. Some of you might be wondering why a constant constructor is better than other constructor. Remember that Flutter, when it's combing the widget tree and the widget hierarchy, whenever there is a constant constructor for a widget, it kind of marks that widget as not needing to be rebuilt. But if it doesn't, then it's going to rebuild it every time, regardless of whether there was a change or not. So the size box is different from a container because it has a constant constructor. Constant constructors gives you that. Do I need to learn Dart before starting with Flutter? Mohammed, Dart, you will learn Dart at the same time that you're tackling Flutter. My suggestion to you, if you're a complete beginner, start embracing Flutter. Do like a hello worlds and whatnot, and then you get familiar with the language. You could, nothing stops you from, taking a little break and learning Dart, but you don't need to spend like one whole year learning Dart and then coming back and then learning Flutter. As you're learning Flutter, I can tell you for experience, when Flutter came out of beta, I started learning Flutter, hadn't even seen Dart, and then I created my first hello world without knowing Dart, without knowing Flutter, and then I fell in love with it, and then I kept going and going. So embrace Flutter at the same time that you're learning Dart, so you can do that task in parallel. Pun intended on parallelism and all of that, but you can do that. And learn Flutter at the same time that you're learning Dart. So I would say embrace Flutter, learn layouts, and then you get the feel for like that type of programming, which is very declarative in this particular case. Great. So now I'm gonna force my widget to actually be one specific size. So I'm gonna say now I'm gonna force that widget to be like 180. You see, the size box is going to add constraints to that widget, and then I want to force that on the size box. For example, you see still is not working, so I'm gonna do, for example, let's try, in my column I'm saying like stretch, but then the children, I have like this thing right here. I can do, for example, like my image, remember what I was doing before? I'm saying width 180, and then I'm saying like height, sorry about that, I forgot to do this piece. And then like say like height 100 pixels, for example, let's say. If I want to do that, you see my image is still there, but now at least I am able to force it. Thanks to that size box right out here is kind of like forcing that, say within this container, I am going to show my image. You can also do this, which is a nice trick. You can say width 180, height 180, don't do the size box. I'm going to remove this widget, but then you can do this. You can say fit box fit dot contain. What does it say? Image asset now is going to create like an invisible constrained box. Size width 180, height 180, and then the fit is just how the image will fit inside of those dimensions. So now if I save it, and then I do reload, now you see, for example, it's still working. Now let me try, for example, 150, for example. And then, so let me do 150 and reload. You see now, so okay, so let me try it again. Let me save that. Let me reload. I'm doing a full restart. Sorry about that. But when you say fit box, fit contain, and you do that, like, oh, wait, what was it? Sorry, we were in the help. So there's the help, and then you want to provide, you can do, there's another option that you can say like cover. And then that means like in that dimension, your image is going to cover like the dimensions that you specified for it. Why did I do whole reload? I didn't want to do that. There you go. You see that's what cover does. And then if you do, you see that width is 150 and height 100. So still, because I didn't have the size box right here, it didn't do it. So let me wrap it again inside of my size box. I'll say width like 150, for example. I'm gonna remove that cover thingy because that's not helping at all. You know, I don't want to do cover. I wanted to do contain. I'm sorry, did I do contain? Perfect. Let me save that. Let me reload. And there it is. So something like that is what you want to do. So it's truly now honoring the fact that your widget is like 150 pixels and then is containing the image within those dimensions. Great. So let's just continue. So now that I have like my help in there, what do I need? What else do I need? Oh, I need the explanation. I'll bring those later because I think I want to create this as a single image because that's how I did it before. I want to add the back button in here. So let's go that. Where did I have it? I had it in the options page. In the options page, I had a row with my button in there. So let me copy this row. I am going to also in the help page, I'm going to have a placeholder for the space in the middle because I want the help at the top. I want the back at the bottom. And I want like a blank space, empty space to stretch in the middle. So you can either do like a spacer. You can use a spacer for that. And then now I can add in my column, then I can add the row which contains the button because I want to center it. Remember last week I was doing that, like I wanted to center it horizontally. So that's why I added a row. Then the button is centered in that row at the bottom. So if I reload, now you see that the back button is down here. There is a blank space in there thanks to Spacer. Spacer, what it does is, if you look at the implementation of Spacer, Spacer is nothing more than a flex widget. So it's an expanded widget that with a flex. So it just like stretches it takes the most real estate in that column, and then it just stretches all the other children to their edges. So that is what a spacer is, nothing more. But later, what we're going to do is we're actually, instead of doing a spacer, we're going to implement an expanded widget with some content. But right now, I don't have the content. So let's now reload Let's reload fully, and then let's see it. Hey, Mamadou, how you doing, brother? Thank you very much for you. Thank you for joining. Because me, I'm coding. And I'm having fun. You are looking at me, and I just say thank you for joining. And again, like I said, I'm giving you exclusive access of me just coding at night. That's why I call it live coding after hours Flutter edition. So that's what I'm doing. So now let's go back again. I have my help. There's the title. There's the back button. And if I click back, it takes you right back. That's all it's supposed to do. So how many pages do we have covered? So we have the help, which I'm going to do like the help button in there. The start, we're gonna work on this one now. We have the options page. We can do easy and hard levels. We're ready to show how to do that. And if you click on view leaderboards, you have your leaderboards. We can do the leaderboards, but I want to get to that point where we hook it up to Firebase. But the leaderboard should have like a back button. So let's replicate actually this. So I can do the same thing that I did here. So I'll add this row thingy in the leaderboards page because we want to do the leaderboards. We want to do like this thing right here, right? So we want to do leaderboards and then allow people to go back. You could do back with, by swiping, but I'm going to also prevent people from doing that because I want them to use the controls in the application. This is a very custom application, and I want them not to use, in Android, they can use the hardware controls, like the buttons and whatnot. And that could also do the back. So we can do that as well. That's totally fine. So let me just collapse this guy. I'll add the spacer and the skipping frog button that will just navigate me back. Again, you can check the previous episode where I did that. I could probably change the height on this guy, the spacing on this guy. So I'll do, for example, let me do like 100 on this guy. So to kind of push it a little lower. I'll probably do the same thing on the other one as well. I kind of like it more below. You see, it's not too high, and I can just click here and be like back. There you go. See, this one is a little bit higher. So let's shrink down the height of the button. So this is which one? The options. You go to the options, make it 100 pixels. Sorry, 100 pixels. Then if I reload, there it is. If I hit back, perfect. The help, probably do the same thing on the help. Yeah, so just do like 100 pixels in there. See, this is now a good candidate for like the back button being a separate widget, because now I'm like changing like all of these things all over the place. So this is how you think about like widget composition. You group your you code something, make it work. Whenever you see opportunities for refactoring and reusability, package it up into a widget, and then you have something reusable that you can use everywhere else. So let's continue. Now let's go for the fun part, and then with this we'll wrap up for today. I'm gonna be building this page right here. I know you guys, really excited about looking at this thing. So I want to build this page. I want at least the foundation. Next week we're gonna start hitting the logic for those things and hooking things up. But initially, I kind of like to see my application taking shape initially, what it looks like. What was this one? Oh, the start. That's where we're gonna go. So you see, I go to the help. I go to the options, I go back to the leaderboards, I can go back, I can do easy or hard, hit back, and then I'm here, you see? So I can do that. Another thing I think that I want to do is like in the leaderboards, I'll probably do like a little home button, because you see you have to click twice to get back to the beginning. So it'd be cool to be here in the leaderboards. You can hit back to get back to the options, but you could be here and say home, and then it takes you here. So that would be cool. So we could probably do that later. So now let's work on the main game page. So in the game page, if you see it, this is then the logic that will be like the what is it, like the pond. I forgot the names. This is like the pond. So the pond, you see, consists of just a background image, some like header and footer kind of like panels. You have like all the button components up there. You have the button components at the bottom. Let's place those like at least as temporarily, and then next week we're gonna hit like the logic of some of those. So let's start building that page. So let me go back to that game page, which is here. And of course, I'm gonna leverage some of the things that we have already here. So for example, like the scaffold, the stack, and the fill position for that, the position that fill for that widget. So let me close everything, because I kind of like the room to code. Let's go back to the game page, and here we go. So let me paste my scaffold. That's the scaffold right there. That's the scaffold. I'm sorry, that's the stack. Closing the stack children, closing the stack, and closing the scaffold. And instead of the main background image, it has to be the image that represents the water. So it's water BG. So let's do water underscore BG. You see, I'm adding a stack, because remember, we're gonna stack things up. And then if I reload, boom, we have water. Let there be water. That's right. So let's continue. There you go. So you see, now we have the water. Now I want to lay down the top and the bottom widgets, which I will very much feel like doing as separate widgets. That way I can encapsulate their logic. They can have like their own logic internally. If you want to just breeze through it, we can just lay down the components and then we package them up as widgets. Let's try to do that. So let's first add like in the position that field, that is like the topmost thing. I'm gonna create like an align widget, and then the align will be I'm just gonna say, sorry about that, I'm gonna align the top widget. So because this is a stack, you could also, by default, that your widgets are going to be like aligned at the top, like 0,0, that position. So I can just say alignment. Here I'm gonna say alignment dot top center. So top center is gonna be like that top panel right there, like that shadow, right? And I can create it as with a custom painter. But why, if I already have an image, which even may cause maybe less resources to be, it needs to be painted, of course, on the screen, but this may exert less resources to be just creating that, because I'm just going to show it and leave it there. This is not going to be animated, so why not using an image? So I think I have something called like top panel, bottom panel. Let me look at that. Right control, blah, 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 splash page, top control, there it is. So I say top control. Let's do, as a child of the align, I'm going to say image.asset, assets, images, top control. Oh no, top panel. I think this is the guy. You can't see it very well, but then I have like top control. Oh, that's that one. So it's top panel. Sorry about that, guys. So it should be top panel. So I'm going to say top panel.png. If I save that and then just reload it, you see now the top panel showing right away. Very simple. What did I do? Just add an align, say align top center. That widget just stretched to its maximum width, and then I didn't have to specify like hard-coded values, which I don't want. Now we want to add the bottom part, which is that other bottom panel down there, right? We want to add that guy. Very simple. All you have to do is just this. Copy paste it and then just say bottom center. And see, I'm already still within the stack, and then I'm just gonna say, let me go to my images. I have top panel. I should have a bottom panel. I'm the worst at naming conventions, guys. Just be easy on me. So I'm just gonna say bottom underscore panel. See, I even didn't keep the good foundation there. Don't be like me. Try to keep a good foundation, a good convention for your widget names and all of that. So now if I reload, you should be able to see the bottom panel right there. There it is. So now we've already laid down the top, the bottom. If you come back over here, you see how I have like some widgets that represent like the lives. That little frog represents the lives. This one represents like the bugs that you've eaten. We have something for the time. We have something for the score. And then we have like these guys down here. So let's try to lay down like the top up here. And I think in my new version, I have like some revamped icons for those. Or I think I was going to create them as separate icons. Let me take a look. I think I have them down here somewhere. I think I already placed them into here. So yeah, you see, I changed them. And I think I'm going to make them as icon fonts. So I'm going to take a break right now to make them into icon fonts. How about that? Has anybody created custom fonts in Flutter? I'm going to show you. If you haven't, let me show you real quick. So what you do is you actually create, like you use SVGs. You create like SVG representations of what you want your icons to be. This is the easiest way to do it. I'm going to show you. So I'm going to grab like all my SVGs that will represent like some of the icons in the application. So I'm going to need this. I'm going to need this guy. I'm going to create like an icon font, and I'm going to show it to you right there in the application. So I want to keep it like much cleaner, and I want to use these instead of images. I want to use them as icon fonts. So let me show you how I do it. There it is. So now what I do is each one of these SVGs will be like an icon in an icon font. So I'll call the icon font like Scaping Frog, something like that. So each one of these should be like an SVG. So I just need to make sure that they're there. So I grab my images, I export selected. I'm gonna export all my SVGs. So for creating icon fonts, you need to have like SVGs, right? So I'm gonna export them as SVGs. So I'm taking just a break from doing this so that we can create it. So I'm just going to drop them in my downloads. Whatever. I'm going to create like a folder, and I'm going to call it... Actually, there's Creeping Frog Assets. Let me use this one. So I'm going to create a folder called fonts. I'm going to drop them there. And if I go to my folder to create the icon font, let me go to my downloads. Skipping Frog Assets. And yeah, I think I have them here. And then when I go to fonts, when I go to that folder, you should be able to see. Oh crap, they got created as PNGs. So go back. I saved them as PNG. Sorry about that, I didn't notice that. So export selected. Maybe yeah, Sirhan, you didn't notice that, man. Come on, man, you're sleeping. I'm just kidding. So let's just keep them as SVGs, and I'll do just export. So I'll click on export. And then now you will see that my icons are actually SVGs now. Let me make sure that I do have that. So you see, now I created, when it says fonts, there's a bunch of SVGs. Now, how do you create your own custom font? Very easy. I can't believe how easy it is. Let me show you. So you can go to, there's a couple of places that you can do it. There's a Flutter icons. There's one place actually called Flutter icons. Right here, Flutter icon. And then it's a Flutter custom icons generator. And then all you need to do is just import your icons, drag your icons in there, and then you just get one SVG for that. So I see I was already creating some icons previously. So let me just do, yeah, I think I can just get rid of these. Clear all icons. There we go. Now I'm going to drag my SVGs into this thing right here. So I'm going to drag my SVGs into that component, into that area. And there it is. You see, I have these 4 icons. I'm gonna say, I think I can click here and say, and change, for example, like the name of my icons, how they're gonna be named, and all of that. So I think I can just, wait, hold on. Let me do this. Where you click on, let me just, I think I can just download them right away. That's the simplest way to do it. Here, where you scroll the way, I think you scroll the way down. Or actually no, when you click here, sorry, when you click on, let me go back again, up. So I have to have my widgets, my icons selected. It's taking a little bit, sorry about that, guys. So I have to have my icon selected, and then I can click like download. When you click on download, you will see this is like the simplest way to do it. You don't name it, you just download it, generate it, and then you will see now how in my downloads I have something called Flutter icons, blah blah blah. That when you click it and then you open it, you have an FT, oh, I think it was this the name. Yeah, this was the name. Let's try it again. Let's try it again. Because I've used another service, but this is, you know, pretty decent. I can do this one. Let's call this Skipping Frog Font, something like that. Oh, it says valid dark class name. Got it. Skipping Frog Font. Why is it saying that? It's because it's going to generate a Dart class that just maps to all the icons. So that's what it's going to do. So I'm going to call it Skipping Frog Font. I'm going to click on download. Now you will see it. Now you should be able to see this Flutter icons thingy. You have your class. You have a fonts file that contains those 4 icons in there. There it is. You see, those are your icons. Now you can come back to the project. You see why I had that fonts folder in there? It was because of this. So I'm gonna drop my font in there. I'm gonna drop my Skipping Frog fonts icons into the helpers folder down here. Let me bring it over in the helpers. That's where I wanted to do it. So I have my Skipping Frog fonts. I'm gonna have it there. Let me show you what it contains. So this Skipping Frog font icons, blah blah blah, it contains just the mapping of all those icons that I have, and it creates like icon data versions of those, like icons for those. I don't need any of these. Well, I can grab this thing because I do need this configuration. I can get rid of this. I don't need this. I'm gonna rename them, but just wait a minute. I am going to add the configuration that I add there here in my pubspec.yaml. So in the pubspec.yaml, I need to add this configuration here where the fonts are. So I'm gonna come over, paste that on comment. Sorry about that. I think I have to do this, and then see, I need to make sure that I keep that indentation correct. No, I don't need the Flutter. Sorry about that. I already have the Flutter. I need the fonts. The font family needs to be there, exactly. And then family fonts needs to be at the same level. And then assets, 1 level down. So you see, this is the configuration that you need to tell Flutter where to pull the fonts from. So it's in assets /font/Skipping Frog font.ttf. That's the one that we just generated. And the font family is going to be called Skipping Frog font. If I go to this class now, I want to rename these guys. I totally want to rename this one. And then I'm going to call this, the first one I think is the flag. So it's going to be called flag. This one I want to call this bug. This one I want to call frog. This one I want to call I think it was the time. I think this was for the time. Let me open the TTF again one more time, just to make sure that I'm doing the right thing. So if I go to my downloads, I go to the Flutter icons, and then I go to this guy. So the first one was the flag, the second one was the bug, the third one was a frog, and this one is a time. That's the one that I'm gonna keep for time, which I think is looking a little odd, but let's keep it like that for now, so that, you know, in the interest of time. So now if you added like something like this, like a new font to your widgets, to your application, you're gonna have to rebuild. So see, it added the fonts, it changed the configuration. So I'm gonna kill the application. Ugh, I hate this. I didn't want to kill the application, but I added this new files, otherwise it's gonna complain that it didn't find it. So check this out. So I'm gonna save everything, make sure that everything is saved, and do another Flutter run. So let's try that. At least now what I'm gonna be doing is this. I'm gonna be adding the icon, the font, the numbers. You see, I'm using even another font. I'm gonna use the regular font for now, just to lay them out, lay down these pieces, lay down some of the pieces down here, and then I think we should be good to go for tonight. At least let's see if we can complete this piece right up here and make it into a separate widget. We're gonna call it like game header, and then the game header is just that piece. We're gonna bring the font. You'll see how I'll use the fonts, and then just incorporate it into the application. That's it, simple as that. So let's finish that. Let's wait until this launches, but meanwhile I can start that piece. So I can come back here to the game page, and I'm gonna, because this is an align and this is the bottom panel, the top panel. We're doing the top panel. In this top panel, you see that the panel is at the top, on top of the water. So that means I need my controls to be on top of the top panel. So they're gonna be part of this guy. Like these items are on top of the top panel. So what do you need for that? You need a stack. That's exactly what you need. So I'm gonna grab this. I'm going to create a stack. Actually, I'm gonna do it the other way. So I'm gonna actually wrap my stack around this image. So I'm gonna say stack, so that then that way the stack gets aligned at the top. I'm gonna create children for that stack, and then the first widget, the bottommost widget in that stack, is the image asset. So it's gonna be the top panel. Then on top of that, I'm gonna add a row of widgets which will represent those icons right here. So on top of the image, inside of the stack, I'm gonna add a row. The row is gonna have children. Then now I can add my little widgets in here, like the every icon, every number, and all of that. So we're gonna lay them out. Then we're going to just do this. So check this out. So I'm gonna do icon, and remember, because I created my own custom icon, I can bring those icons just like it was the material icons from Flutter. That's what I like about it. So we're gonna try to do that. See, it's gonna come up now in a minute, in a few seconds more, and then we're gonna start seeing those widgets, those new icons that I imported. So I know I took a little break from the application just to come up with this. Let me kill this so that it doesn't blow up. But at least I just showed you in a very simple way how you create like your own custom icons. You can just import them into your application, and then you're good to go. You add custom images as icons. It's better to do those as images as opposed to bring like a PNG, because they're much heavier. Icon fonts is much lighter, and then it brings like much sharpness to your application. So let's now try to add some of those icons. So I'm gonna add the first one. Let me do icon, and then you just add an icon just as a regular one, but you're gonna bring the skipping frog font, and then I'm gonna add what's the first one? The first one is the frog. So let's do skipping frog font dot frog. Skipping frog font. I think it's double. Yeah, skipping frog font, and then let me do auto import. There it is, and then I do dot frog. Let's do the frog one, right? And let's see if it shows up at least. So I say icon. I do the icon. The getter frog isn't defined. Why does it say it's not defined? It is defined, isn't it? Dot. I call it flog. Sorry about that. I call it flog. Let me rename the symbol. Come on, man. Let me just rename symbol and I'll say frog. There we go. Now if I save it and reload, cross fingers, there it is. I see it. I see it right up there. So now let me, for example, what I'm gonna do is just like bring this particular color and add it as one of my, like a part of the theme. So I'm gonna bring my color into my application. Remember that I created something like called like app colors. Here I'm gonna create like static const. I'm gonna say static const color. Let's say icon not icon colors. Let's call it game game header icon colors. And then I'll say color, and then it has to be like a hex value, as you see there. I need to provide the alpha channel and just say, let's say, see, and now I'll say game header icon colors, and check this out. So back to my game page, I'm gonna say that the color is color. I'll say app colors dot. I need to do the auto import, so I'll say app colors dot game header icon colors size. Let's try like a 30. Let's try to see that, and I'll do like a reload, and now you will see that there it is. That's that icon right there. So now what I'm gonna do is, even though this is a row, I want to create like that little structure that represents the like that thing right here. I'm gonna add a padding all around the row just to bring it down. That's the first thing that I'm gonna do. So I'm gonna wrap my row inside a padding, and I'm gonna do like you know, let's start with 15, let's start with 16 and then reload. I should be able to see this thing come down. There it is. I can keep it inside of a safe area. That I could do. So I can wrap this padding and then do like wrap with widget, and then I can say safe area. Let's try that so that at least we know that it doesn't, you see, it keeps it in, there it is. So that's what I wanted to do. So you see, now I can do that. I can, you know, kind of like adjust the padding and whatnot. But I want like some of these widgets to be like in pairs, like that. The icon for the lives, I want it to be like its own separate component. I could do so I can organize them individually. So here I can do another row. You see. Remember, I'm just creating the structure, and then I'm gonna create them as separate widgets. So now I can create like a text widget and do, what is it? Like, let's do like a 3, something like that. And then I'm gonna say like, where am I? Let me close this guy. Here I am. And then I can say like 3, and then I can say style. Style, text style. This is how you do like styling in Flutter, of course. And then you add color. I'll do like colors that white, for example, for now. And I can do like the font size. And then you see, now I can create that component as a separate component, and then I can reuse it across the board. So I can do font size. Let's start with a 20, for example. If I do this, you see the 3 is there, but I need to add, for example, like maybe some spacing around it. I can do like a sized box with a width of like, let's say 20. That's kind of like a, you know, hacky way to do like a spacing, but it works because size boxes are very lightweight and they're just a transparent. They have a constant constructor, and you can do something really cool with that. So I'm gonna bump it up to like 24. Do a reload on that, and you see now the 3 like showing up. Let's add like let's do font weight, and then I'll do like font weight that bold. For some reason, like the IntelliSense is like the IntelliSense is lower than I am. It's pretty cool. So you see 3 became a little bolder and then a little bigger. I can bring it up to like 30. And then let's see what it looks like. Then the other ones, I can just adjust them and like add them accordingly. So you see something like that. That's what I'm looking for. But you see, I created a row. This one I can create it as a separate widget, and then I can just add these things as individual widgets, except for these 2. So in this particular case, then it doesn't make sense to make it into a widget if I'm not going to reuse it anywhere else. So I can just copy paste this. So check this out, because there's only 2 pretty much. Then the other ones follow like a separate convention. So the next icon is the bug, and then I can just say like dot bug, And of course, because these are hard coded for now, remember later these will be dynamic because they will change values and whatnot based on my state and all of that, and pulling the information from services. So that's what I'm gonna do, like a 20 in here. If I reload, there it is. You see the 20 right there? So it's showing up. Let me move this over. You see there's the 20, but I kind of want them, I either want them like staggered a little bit, or I can bring this down and increase the height of this thing. At least that's what I can do to just leave them the way they are, but just accommodate the, like this guy right here. For example, we have the game page, for the header, for example, like here. The image asset, even though I did like the top panel, I kept it like that. I can do like a height. I can do, let me try doing like a height. Let's try like 200, for example, something like this. Just so that it stretches it. See, it stretches it, but now I want to say the height is 200, but I'll say fit box fit dot fit height. That is another option that I can do. That way it will stretch the image. And there it is. Now I have my widgets, which I feel now compelled to decrease this to like a 10. Something like this, right? And then I reload. And you see now things are looking much better, but these are too tight. So we kind of want to space them out. What I can use is, in this particular one, is this guy, which I like to use. I like to use the main axis alignment, and I do main axis alignment dot space between. That's a really cool option that you can add to rows, so that you can space out your widgets without having to add padding or space. You see, they're spaced out. Now all I need to do is just bring the other components. So I need to have something that represents the time and something for the flag. And of course, you may have guessed, this is a column with 2 rows. So what I'm gonna add here is, as the third element, is a column. And as children, I need 2 rows that look pretty much like this guy. So I'm gonna add 1 row here, 1 row there. Actually, let me start with 1, and then I'll flip the order of these guys. I need an icon down here, and then I can grab this guy, move it down here, because I want to replicate that structure that looks like a column with 2 rows, one having like if you see there in the design, it has like the time, and then this one has like score, but you see the font is a little bit smaller, so we probably have to adjust that. So if I do something like this, instead of 30, it should be probably like something like 20, and then instead of bug, this should be like dot, I call it time. Let me save this and let me show you. Remember, I'm just laying down. You see that? I know what happened. So it's a column, remember. So we need to make sure that in this particular case, you have to say, column. I'm sorry. You have to say main axis size, main axis size dot min. Don't make it that the column, by default, columns are flex widgets. If you go to a column, you see that a column inherits from flex. So it kind of takes, it's very flexible. It takes advantage of like the whole screen. There it is. So now it got fixed. In this particular case, I need to maybe decrease the font size. Let's try to do like a 16 and reload it. Let's do a reload. I think that's decent enough, but I want them to be vertically aligned. So I'm going to use the main axis alignment, main axis alignment dot center. Let's try this. So let's check this out. So if I do this and then I reload, now I will see this like a little bit more in line. So let me try that. Let me save. Let me do it one more time. Oh no, sorry. Main axis alignment is a horizontal. It's like lined up like that. I think I have to try the other one is the cross axis alignment, and then I do cross axis alignment, meaning when you do cross, meaning is vertical. So in the vertical axis is like the opposite of the row, which is the main is the horizontal, the cross is the vertical, which is the opposite alignment. So if I do this, now you will notice, you should be able to notice that the, okay, why is not, okay, I think I know why. So I think the reason why these two, you see this widget right here, like I want this text to line up to that widget. So if I increase the widget to like 40, for example, let me show you this, let me show you my point. So if I do that, you see how this is still not lined up. It's because this widget has like some weird alignment to it. I'm gonna have to either fix that the widget and re-render it, because it's also missing one piece from the top that I really needed it. So the vertical alignment is okay. I'm gonna keep that, but I'm just gonna copy this guy one more time, and then I'm gonna do the time and the flag thingy. So if I do, for example, like 2500, and then the icon is gonna be dot flag. I think that's what I called it. Remember, I'm just laying down the components. There it is. You see, this one actually works much better. And you see these two icons are still pushing it, so I'm gonna have to reduce. I think I can actually get. Don't do the padding on the row on the top, and just do only. So do only left and right. That way we don't have the, we don't have the padding at the top. And then now when I do this, they get pushed, and now I can see my icons in there. Hey, Thiago, how you doing, brother? Hello. Obrigado for joining. I think I got it right. Sorry about that, man, if I messed it up. But thank you for joining, brother. Thank you so much for being in tune. You may have missed this piece, but I just laid down like these components up here. It was pretty cool. So in that particular row, what I'm gonna do is, even though I said space between, I'm gonna say now in the cross-axis alignment, I'm gonna say align them all at the top. So I'm gonna say cross-axis alignment start. That way, you see them that they're down here below. Now if I reload, you should be able to see them go up the top. So that way they're more lined up with this one, and then I can keep these widgets like that. I don't like the alignment in these widgets right here. I can fix that. I fix that in the column, in that little mini column that is here. I'll say, I say cross-axis alignment, axis alignment, end. That way they will be lined up to the right of that column, and then they look a little better. You see, there it is. So I kind of like that. I think I want to decrease the font, the icon fonts on those, like the icon sizes, I'm sorry. So I'm going to decrease this to 30, and also I'm going to make this 30. But later I'm going to fix that, the time icon, because I don't like the way that it's coming up. Like it's missing something. Now in between these two rows, I do want to add like a little bit of spacing. So here I'm going to say like const sized box with a height of like 10 pixels, something like that. So let's try that. Let's see what it looks. Remember, all the blue things is because there it is. Now it looks a little bit more decent. So I like that. You see, now that you've laid down your components, these, I'm not going to worry about these for now, because we're going to be replacing those with some values, like actual values coming through from the service. I am going to now extract this as a separate widget, and this is what I was referring to before as widget composition. So you lay down your widgets, you build your structure, then now that you see that there is potential room for improvement and for refactoring, this widget, I want to extract it as a separate widget, because it's going to maintain its own logic. It's going to maintain its own life cycle. I don't want the whole page, just because one thing changed, the whole page to be re-rendered. I only want that object to be re-rendered. So that's exactly what I'm going to do here. Check this out. I am going to just grab this whole top panel thing right here, including the align. I can include the align. I can just extract this widget. Check this out. I can just say refactor, or I can say refactor, or I can use this option right here. I can use this other option. There's this. I thought it was extract widget. Let me grab this whole thing, and then I can do. I thought it was like extract widget option, but anyway, I can do this. Look, and I can just cut it, and I'm gonna call this game header panel. And now that's going to be a new widget that I'm going to create. Now I can say, for example, create class called game header panel, but I want to create it in the proper place. In my folder called widgets, I'm gonna create a new file called game header panel.dart, and I'm gonna create it as initially as a stateless widget, because I'm not gonna be, so I'm gonna call it game header panel. I will import what's missing, and I'm just gonna drop my structure right there. That's the align widget. Remember that same widget that I created earlier and I built like the whole structure for. Now all I need to do is just import the missing stuff. And later on, I'm going to be adding like a specific service for this so that it keeps like its own logic and all of that. So after I extracted my widget into a separate panel, into a separate widget, pretty much, now all I have to do is just import it here. If I import my newly created widget, which is a constant, because remember right now I'm not doing much in there, but now all I need to do is just reload fully, and now you will see it that it's like I did not do any changes, like it was exactly the same thing. Look, I click on start and there it is. That's my component up there. It's reusable. If I collapse it, it's the whole panel. So I encourage you guys to do the same thing. So make sure that your widgets are encapsulated enough so that remember, you follow like the single responsibility principle. So the SRP, single responsibility principle. One widget does one thing and does it well. What does it do? It is the header. The header is going to maintain their score, is going to keep track of the time, is going to just be nice and display how many bugs the user has eaten and all of that, and so on and so forth. So that's what I recommend for you guys to do whenever you're building like your widgets. Build a structure, make sure that it looks good, then extract it into a separate widget, stuff like that. Okay, so now we're pretty much at time. Just wanted to say thank you so much. Again, just as a reminder, this is the app that we're building. It's called Skipping Frog. We're going to get all the way to publishing this application. I had a lot of fun with you guys. Thank you. Thank you, the usuals, Sirhan, Mohammed, Thiago, Mohammed, all of you guys that joined. Thank you so much. Camilo, thank you so much for joining. Diane, thank you for your tips. Thank you for joining, all of you guys. Again, like I said, please make sure to either scan the QR code that is on the corner, to follow me on Twitter. I'm going to continue doing these type of sessions every week until I complete this application fully. Let me bring it up again so you guys can see it. So I'm going to complete this application fully until I build it completely. I'm going to publish it to iOS, to the App Store. I'm going to build it for Android. I'm going to build it in the Google Play. Make sure that make sure that you stay tuned so that you can see until I finish it completely. And again, please keep dropping your comments in the chat to encourage me. I make a mistake. Yes, please let me know that I made a mistake, and that you. I like when you guys keep me honest, and that we're doing this in a very collaborative fashion. So look, it's 10:38 p.m. Eastern time. This is like the time that I usually do this kind of things, like on my own. But now I'm opening it up for everybody to look at me coding, contribute. Just give me encouragement, like I said. Contribute with the code, and just keep me honest, like I said. So I just wanted to say the next session is next Wednesday. That is correct, Sirhan. Now we're back in the regular schedule on Wednesday, because tomorrow I'm gonna have a free event at GDG San Jose. I'm going to drop the link right here. I'm going to be doing Flutter Web with Firebase for a session at GDG San Jose, which I encourage everybody to join. We're going to have raffles. We're going to raffle t-shirts. We're going to raffle hardware. You want like a nice t-shirt? You have a chance. Join tomorrow. That is the link for tomorrow's event that I'm going to be doing at GDG San Jose. We're going to be doing Flutter Web, Firebase. You're gonna walk away with your own Firebase project, and you're gonna learn a lot about Flutter Web, and then we're gonna be building a Flutter Web application on that session. It's a nice workshop, code along type of workshop. You can win hardware like Google hardware. You could get a T-shirt like a IO Extended San Jose T-shirt. A lot of really cool things. I hope that you guys join tomorrow, that session. We're going to be there. So everybody is is invited. Tiago, you say you're doing the grocery project. That's really cool, man. Awesome. As soon as you finish, definitely make this game project. Definitely encourage you to do so. Thank you so much. Again, these kind of workshops and these kind of like videos, I do it again for all of you, just so that you can see me how I do. I follow this no excuses type of approach when it comes to building Flutter applications. I build applications because I love them, because I love doing Flutter stuff. I'm really passionate about building stuff with the community, building Flutter code. So I'm not like, oh, if I'm not gonna build a Twitter application, I'm not gonna build something. No, I just build anything because it makes me learn more. It makes me share with you guys. You keeping me honest. That makes me a better developer every day. So I truly appreciate everybody joining. Pascal, how you doing? You're calling me coach. Thank you. But no, I'm just really happy that you're joining. And again, I will definitely share like some of this code, not all. I'm gonna share a portion of the code, but please visit all the videos on this channel about other applications that I've built, like the grocery project. You can follow that one. Give me your feedback and please tackle that. So next Wednesday is our date. We're gonna be completing this application. We're gonna now implement the game portion of the application, like that game page. Let me show you the design again. We're gonna be tackling this next week, so please make sure not to miss it, because we're gonna be tackling the logic of this application, like in the game. Like the game aspect of that. We already did a little bit of state management. We're gonna continue doing that. So make sure to tune in next Wednesday, 9 p.m. Eastern Time. There's a date. Make sure that you join. This is live coding after hours, Flutter edition. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining. My name is Roman, Flutter GDE. See you on the next one. Thank you so much. Follow me on Twitter. Subscribe to this channel. Make sure to tune in next time. Thank you so much. Have a good night, everybody. See you next time.